Jeff, you know, this is your third head coaching job over the course of your career. I was curious. I mean, I don't know how much the experiences, how much they align or how parallel they are, but for a head coach, what's the importance of year three of your third year of being with a program, of things being relatively established and the tone being set?
I think each year that you're able to gain more experience, you're able to have guys that you've coached, guys become older in the program. Then the hope is that they're able to teach your culture. Um, they're able to help you, really to help you in the building of the program because they understand you. They've been around you. They've been around your staff. They have some familiarity. And I've always felt that really good programs are player led. Certainly, they take the identity of the culture and the things that are established. Uh, but the really, really good teams and programs are led by the players. And so I think that's the biggest thing as you start to stack up years, is starting to establish that in your program.
Jeff, how have those players and coaches adapted to everything that's been new because of the restrictions this year?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, but our guys have done a really good job, and everyone associated with our program has as well. Especially our trainer, our doctors, all the people that have worked tirelessly uh, to get us in this position where we're close to having an opportunity to play. We're really, really grateful for that. Our guys have done a pretty good job as well of trying to adhere to the protocols. But it is a challenge, especially, for an 18 to 21, 22-year-old kid that's trying to navigate college, some for the first time, in this environment. It's been a challenge to everyone, not just us, but everyone. But one of the things that I have felt is that in order to be a really good player and in order to have a really good team and program, there has to be a level of discipline. There has to be sacrifice. And I think when you look at what's going on, in our country, I think we'd be better if everyone had that as well. A little bit more discipline and people having to sacrifice for the greater good of the team and program and for the greater good of what's best for everybody in the country.
Jeff, have you ever had a player as young as William? And, how is he adapting to, playing this year or practicing with you guys?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've had a guy that young. When Will signed with us, he was 16. And, when he got here, he had just turned 17. I can't recall off the top of my head anyone that young. But he's mature. He wants to be really good. He works. He's able to pick things up pretty quickly. And it's great to have him back. He was out for a little bit with a little minor injury, and he just got back this week. This week, as far as being able to practice, and it's been great having him back. And I think he's going to continue to get better and better.
Coach, you finally have some seniority on your team for the first time in a while. What's it like to see the leadership from some of the older guys?
Yeah, it's good to have guys that we've coached for a couple of years that have an understanding of what it is we're trying to do, and understand what we want as a coaching staff, and understand some of the standards that we've tried to instill in our program. You have one senior in Terrell Brown that's been with us. This is his third year with us. And then, 2 kids that we signed when we first got here with X and with Audice. Then you have Justin that's played a lot of minutes. So they have an idea of what we want. Although some things are a little bit different, schematically of what we're doing this year, what we're able to do on both sides of the floor. They understand how the practices are, what we want, what we're looking for. And so it's been really cool to see those guys pull guys aside and talk to them, during a practice. To see those guys on the sideline during a break in practice to go over and, hey, no, we don't do it like this, or to do that, to see them before practice, or to put their arm around a freshman or a new guy, after a practice and, either encourage them or tell them, like, no, this isn't the way we do things. And so that's been really cool to see.
Jeff, you talked about the last time we talked about a month ago that, one of the things the team had to plainly do better was shooting, and that you guys were going to work on those fundamentals. What confidence have you gained, or encouraging things you've seen from your teams over the past month in practicing, getting back up to speed and getting ready for the season, that you're going to see better scoring? What are some improvements you've seen there?
Well, we hope to see it. It's to be honest with you, it's very difficult right now because you don't see it against anyone else. And so, for this whole time, we've just been against us. That's where the exhibitions and or the scrimmages are sorely, sorely missed. I think when we have the right guys taking shots, then our percentages will go up. And I think that's, everywhere. We've shot the ball well, knock on wood. I think we've gotten better at that in practice, but I don't know if that's fool's gold. I don't know if our defense is bad. I don't know yet. And so it's a lot of things that, you just still don't know. But we've worked hard. We've really tried to preach and talk about shot selection. We've talked about good shot and bad shot and explained explicitly the difference and the need for always getting really good shots and making sure the right guys are taking those shots.
Jeff, these first 2 years, you guys were kind of limited with post players. You just didn't have a lot of bodies. Adding guys like, John and Max and a few other guys, does it help the competition in practice to have, 2 big guys going against 2 big guys a lot?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Just having competition in practice, with Will being back this week, it's the first time that we've had, since we've been here this year, it's the first time that we've had all 13 guys available. And it's made the practices really, really interesting. Even for a coach, like for me, trying to get guys in there in practice. Like it's an adjustment when you have all these, in the past, we've had maybe 10 guys, maybe sometimes 8, and so in practice, then it's pretty easy to understand the rotations and this guy's going to be here and is going to do this. With 13 guys and 13 competitive guys and 13 guys that, we feel like can help us. It's been really great to see that competition. But we're at the point now, like you're ready to do it against somebody else. And hopefully we're able to get to that point next Wednesday.
Jeff, most of this obviously predates your tenure here, but Pitt's now gone six straight years, without having a player get taken in the NBA draft. Can a college basketball program in 2020 be successful if it's not at least semi-consistently sending guys to the league?
I think it can. I think it can. I think if you look at some of the programs in mid-major level, I think they've been able to do it. I think if you look at, I'm pretty sure I haven't never done the research on this, but I'm pretty sure there's some teams at the Power 5 that have been able to have some success without that. It certainly helps when you have that, when you have guys that are have the ability to be drafted and that are drafted. But I'll tell you what, when you look at this draft, you see some guys that have gotten drafted in the first round, or some teams have had guys drafted that lost. And so that's not necessarily the recipe for success either. I think we have some guys that currently that have the potential, one day to be one of the 60 players, called. But one of the things we talk about, I talk about with our guys, I talk about with young men that we recruit. Like it's hard. Like it's real. Like you saw some hell of a players, 2 nights ago that had great college career, not good, but great college careers that didn't get drafted. Doesn't mean that they won't make it, but they didn't. And so it's really, really hard. I mean, it's 450 guys in that league. It's 60 to hear their name called every year. And so you have to be different. And it's everywhere, like on the court, off the court. You have to be different. Or you have to be a freak. You got to be one of the two. Like you got to be a guy that's freaky and, whatever, or you have to be different. And, we're trying to teach our guys how to work to be worthy of that.
Jeff, you had mentioned all the challenges in practice and really not knowing. How do you try to develop a rotation? Do you have a feel for that starting lineup, any of those things? And how do you speed up that process?
Yeah, if we had to play tomorrow, I feel comfortable and confident about who I would go with, as far as the starting lineup. As far as the full rotation, I don't know. I really don't know. I think we have a little bit of an idea. I think we have some guys that have started to separate themselves a little bit. But it's still up in the air, as far as, how many guys will play, the different rotations and things like that. I think these next, few days are going to be big for us. And that's something I know that I'm looking at as a coach, trying to figure that out. But I think that's something that you'll see continue to change as we go forward, especially once you start playing someone else where you can see it all together, where you could see this is a year where, sometimes the women's programs, they have a practice squad they go against. They have, guys that they go, like it would be great if we had a practice squad where we could play, where you could see these guys, against someone else and start to try to figure out the depth and how long can guys play at the speed and the level we want them to play at before getting tired, where they need a break. So we're that's all still evolving for us right now.
Jeff, on that. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you talked about how, with shooting, it's tough to gauge where you guys are at because you aren't playing each other. Another aspect that you mentioned they needed to improve on was rebounding and, being physical and responsible with the boards on, both offense and defense. How do you kind of motivate your guys to stay locked in and improving in those rounds when, again, they're facing each other and it's, it's not, it's harder to gauge that when you're facing the same guys every day.
Yeah, it's to me, that part is pretty simple. If we want to win, we have to do it. And that's what we've tried to get everyone to understand. If we want to win, then there are a few things that are absolutes that we have to do. And rebounding is one of those things. And we have to go after it in practice. We have to have guys go into the offensive glass so we make sure we are blocking out. We have to have guys in constant pursuit of the ball. We have to make multiple effort plays. But it's something that we have to do.
Jeff, on the call yesterday, you said you hope to still have 7 newcomers for this year. How late can a ruling on Nike's eligibility come?
Your guess is as good as mine, man. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. Obviously, we would love to have a decision and a decision in our favor. The whole I don't understand it. This is my first time going through it. From this side of it, it's a lot about it that I don't understand, that doesn't make sense, especially in a pandemic. I heard Coach Mike Bray maybe a couple of weeks ago, talking about it, and he mentioned that all the kids that transferred should be eligible to play because we're in a pandemic. You're going to need bodies. Inevitably, you're going to be down, and with contact tracing, you could be down a lot. There are programs right now that are unable to practice. There are programs that only have maybe 6 guys right now because you have some guys in contact tracing. So in order to play a game, you're going to need everyone. And so it's a lot about it I don't understand, and but hopefully we can find out some news here soon.
I noticed you have 5 walk-ons on the team. Is that part of it, to have extra bodies?
Yeah, it is. I think we have 4, but yeah.
Jeff, this St. Francis team has scored a lot of points over the last few years. They've had success in the NEC. What's the challenge of this group on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, obviously they are very, very well coached. I've had a chance to watch them, from last year. And, I think they've won 20 games for the past 3 or 4 seasons, been at the top of their league in their conference championship last year against Robert Morris, conference tournament championship. And so it's a team that knows how to win. They returned their front court. Their 6th man off the bench is back, who's another front court player. So they have experience, and they have experience winning. They know how to win. They expect to win. And that's huge for a program. Now I know they lost a lot, but they have been very efficient offensively. The past 2 years they've had the player of the year in the league, 2 different guys. And so we know they're going to be well coached. We know that they're going to have a winning spirit and a winning attitude, and we know that it's going to be a challenge for us.
Jeff, what's the biggest, or what are the biggest differences that you noticed with X, from the time that the season ended last year to where he is right now?
I think mindset. I think of understanding, having a better understanding of the responsibility of a point guard and a really good player. There's a responsibility that comes with that. If you want to be good and if you want to have a really good team. I think humility. I think that. I think, from what we've seen in practice, like decision making, I also think it helps that he has better talent around him right now. That certainly helps. And one of the things we've challenged Xavier with is, in his first 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, I think both years he's been in the top 5 in assists in our league. I think last year it was maybe 5th or somewhere 5th or 6th or whatever. But it was like a 2-thing separation from number 1 and where he was. I think he was like at 4.9 last year, 4.8, 4.9. And that was on the worst shooting team in the history of this program. And so all of a sudden, if we can shoot the basketball better from the 3-point line, if we, can score it a little bit better inside, if we can drop it off and go up and finish, he has a chance, we think, to be one of the top guards in our league. And so challenging him with that. And he's knock on wood, he's played very well for us in these practices. And hopefully that's something that carries over.
Jeff, Justin led the team last year in scoring. How has he looked in practice so far? And do you see him taking a step forward this year, just having that 1 year of experience under his belt? Yeah,
he's practiced well, and he's not practiced well at times. But he's a good player, and we need him to be a really good player. He led us in scoring and rebounding last year. We need him to score the right way, which he's capable of. We need him to rebound. We need his energy. We need his toughness. We need all of those things because when he plays at a high level, that gives us a tremendous opportunity to be a good basketball team. If you look last year, when he played at a really high level and played well, we were pretty good. And so the thing we're trying to get from him, and this is where you take a jump to becoming a good player, is when you can be consistently good. And that's what we're trying to get him to become. And if he can make that jump, then I think we have a chance to do that.
Jeff, how difficult will that be for him? And what do you tell him about the league punching back or paying more attention to him?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. I mean, it's difficult because what happens, human nature happens. Especially for these young kids now. Like you have a good freshman year as far as numbers and things that you do, and then all of a sudden people start talking. And if you're not careful, you can start really listening and buying into. And sometimes success can make you soft. It can make you start believing all these things that you're hearing about yourself. There's a thing now where it's like it's such a hurry to go to the NBA. And certainly it's everyone's dream, and I have nothing against that. But it's like you put these expectations. There are these expectations or these things put on these kids that's unrealistic, I think, at times. And what I mean by that, you have a good freshman year, then all of a sudden everyone starts thinking, well, he'll be a guy that leaves early. Next year is going to be your last year. And certainly you should have that goal. You should have that dream, but you got to have the work. You got to have the hunger. One of the things, I've talked to our guys about, I mean, you look at this draft 2 days ago, there were a lot of really, really good players that didn't get drafted. And so you have to remain hungry. You have to remain humble. You have to do that. And then you have to show up every day to get better. And so the discipline, the mindset, all of those things. And I think it's more of a challenge now for young people because of all the noise, all the different ways they can hear the noise. They can do that. And if you're not careful, that can distract you. That can knock you off something that made you really good. Justin is a grinder. Justin is a guy has a toughness, where he comes from, the environment he grew up in. It was love, but it was toughness. Everything that he's done to this point, he's been able to accomplish because of toughness, because of hard work, because of all those things. The thing that you hope is that you don't lose that when you have some success and you think you've made it and you think and all of a sudden. So it's on all of us, us as coaches, as teammates, the people around our program, family, everyone, to constantly remind him and all of our guys of that all the time.
Jeff, as a head coach, especially when you're taking over a program in pretty rough shape, how do you go about building culture and building identity?
Great question. Great question. You try to demand it. You try to instill it every day. You try to talk about it. You try to recruit the right kids that listen and want to be a part of it. You get to a point where hopefully as you start taking steps and building that culture, the guys that don't fit, sometimes they remove themselves because they just don't fit the culture or if they don't believe. And I think that's it. I think that's what you do. You have to do it every day. You have to have certain standards and things that you believe in. The kids that you coach and recruit, they have to believe in those standards. They have to have total buy-in to it. And then sometimes, man, you got to get lucky. You have to get lucky. You have to, get some guys that maybe are a little bit better or develop or, maybe you can win some recruiting battles, that allows you, to do that. But it's a very difficult thing to do.
Coach, college basketball is a game where you can really feed off the crowd, and you're not going to have much crowd this year. Have you talked about that? Or are you going to wait to see what Wednesday's like, or are you just trying to control what you can control?
No, we have talked about it. We absolutely have talked to our guys about it and just the need for us to bring and have energy every day because that's what we're going to need in games because you're not going to have the energy for us. We're not going to have our home crowd. We're not going to have the zoo. Same thing when you go on the road. Sometimes you can get energy from a road crowd, from the energy that's in the building. We're not going to have that. And so it's something that we definitely have talked about, we've discussed, and will certainly be a challenge for us this year.